is On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. A weekly recap of your Philadelphia Flyers from blue line to blue line. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's, tonight's show is brought to you by Han and Stone Spa, Pat Dion Beverages, The Capitol Grill, Chickies and Pete's, Payroll Service Solutions, and Independence Blue Cross. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Now, here are your hosts, former Flyer Brad Marsh and Paul Jolovitz.
And welcome everybody to Chickies and Pete's, beautiful place right here in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross, right here on 1490 WBCB, 107.3 FM, and seen live on YouTube at WBCB Sports. I'm Paul Jolovitz with Brad Marsh. Our guest will introduce in a second, Riley Cote. Hell of a tournament going on, Brad.
So far, so good, and it's lived up to its expectations, and I think every hockey fan's got what they wanted. It was a Canada-USA final, and so it's going to be a big game tomorrow evening.
Big game, and a lot of non-hockey fans, which is what they were trying to pull in. Every hockey fan in the world is watching, and a lot of non-hockey fans. We see the NHL doing the right thing. The NBA, another horrible All-Star weekend. The Pro Bowl's horrible. Baseball is okay, but hockey really got it right. And we're going to talk about it tonight with a guy who, apropos, he's here tonight after the start of the U.S.-Canada not elimination game, but a regular game last Saturday. 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. Guys using their nasty knuckles, which is the name of our guest podcast. Former Flyer Riley Cote. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
All right, Saturday night, Montreal. They boo the anthem, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, which is unacceptable ever. But the emotion of this game and the Tkachuk boys and 3 fights in 9 seconds, what was your impression? You said before you had no idea that was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely caught off guard. I give full props to the American team. I think they kind of came out and dictated the play. They kind of stuck it to the Canadians right out of the gate. I thought it was great. I don't think you could see that in IHF format since it's an NHL run event. They were able to stay in the game, but it brought a lot of energy. Obviously, anytime there's international play, there's always a major rivalry, especially between USA and Canada. But I thought it was great. I think it was great for the ratings. I thought it was great for finding some new hockey followers.
Everybody liked it except Gary Bettman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
I want to know what you thought about it, Brad, because I loved it. Obviously, like Riley said, great for ratings, the emotion between the two countries. There's kind of a political backdrop to this with what's going on now. To me, booing a national anthem is completely unacceptable for anyone ever, anywhere. Can't do it. They did do it. I'm not sure I'd punch someone next to me if they were booing the national anthem, but I'd think about it. What's your point of view on that?
You should punch your president. Because the thing is the thing, and not to get into politics, but the thing is his comments over the last several weeks / months, he doesn't know the damage that he did in Canada.
I'm sure that's part of it.
And the fans took it to heart, and it just wasn't that game. It's been every game. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't blame it. It was emotional. It's an emotional game. It's an emotional atmosphere. And Canada's not for sale, and the fans let them know it.
I completely agree with you on the whole thing with Canada. I just think booing an anthem is wrong. Whatever. Finals tomorrow night. This might be the most looked forward to hockey game, guys, in 20 years. Jack Eichel said it's the biggest game of his life. He's won a Stanley Cup. Matthew Tkachuk, who won the Stanley Cup in 7 games last year, Brad said it's the second biggest game of his life behind that one. It's an exhibition game, but it's really not, is it?
No, and we've talked about it before, and whenever you put the jersey on, whether it be the Maple Leaf or the USA jersey, it is different. And, in Canada, there's 7 Canadian teams, and I know some of them have a favorite U.S. team, but basically the country's divided into 7 different fan bases. In this case, the country's divided into 1 fan base, and everybody's cheering for Team Canada north of the border. And, the same to be said for the U.S. Like, everybody's cheering for them. They're not cheering for Vegas or Florida or Philadelphia Flyers. They're rallying behind their team. And other than the Olympics, there's no other opportunity in professional sports to cheer for your country.
Yeah, and then
To my knowledge, anyhow.
Yeah, it was in Canada in 2010 when, in my opinion, Crosby, I don't know if it admit this or not, biggest goal he ever scored in his life was in overtime of the Olympic gold medal game. It was fantastic. This game has so many angles to it. Obviously, a couple flyers. Riley, you're Canadian. What's your feeling going into this game? You got Konechny, you got Travis Sanheim, obviously Sam Ersson, Sweden the other night. We'll talk about that, but you're a Maple Leaf guy, aren't you?
I am. I'm from north of the border, and I just like most fans, I think this is the best case scenario. U.S. versus Canada final. I think just like we saw in Game 1, I don't think you're going to see quite the flare-up, but I expect a hard-fought battle. I mean, this is as good as it gets.
Guys, when the start of the game, let's call a spade, and I don't care because I loved every minute of it. The puck's dropped, and everybody else, like in a fight, goes to their own neutral corner. Everybody knew this was going to happen. The coaches can say what they want. The players can say what they want. But this was staged, and I don't mind at all. But to pretend this was spontaneous is an insult to anybody's intelligence that watched that game. Am I correct?
Well, I don't know if I'd go as far as saying it was staged, like a WWF
No, not in that
match.
way, yeah.
But I just think you have the Tkachuk brothers that are full of piss and vinegar, and what can I do to get the team going? What can I do to stir the pot? Usually they're yapping and scoring goals. But I think it was something that – who got in the first one again? Matthew?
Matthew.
I think it was something that he might have nudged his brother, and I assume they're roommates. I don't know. Maybe that's what they talked about in their pregame nap or at the pregame meal.
They said a chat session.
Little chat, yeah.
Yeah,
Group
and
chat.
then but the fight that shocked me was the third one. Like, okay, we just saw two
There it is,
unexpected
right?
battles,
We're watching it right now.
and then they crash to the net. And then there's a third fight within 9 seconds, and like nobody saw that coming.
How bad – the Flyers obviously are a growing team. They got Travis Konechny, who plays for Canada now. But they don't have anybody like Matthew or Brady Tkachuk, an instigator who can also play, provides toughness, physicality, the kind of player that's basically perfect for anybody. How bad, Brad, do they need a player like one of those two if somebody's out there?
Well, obviously there's they play on two different teams, so
Yep.
there's 30 other teams that would love to have a
Yep.
Tkachuk in their lineup. And myself, I can't stand watching them play, which is the ultimate sign of we would love them on our team.
Exactly.
And they annoy me, but they're effective, and the game needs more of that.
Yep.
We need more personality in the game. Right now, every game a lot of times is the same. You know, they dump it in, they change, and then they get it out of their zone. It's a 3-line pass or a 2-line pass, I guess, and they chip it in. They pressure it, then they change on the way back, almost like a lacrosse game, for heaven's sakes. But we need personalities, and we need the marketing of the NHL to market these personalities and start to grow the sport where people can identify with our star players.
Riley, did you play with anybody like either the Tkachuk boys? I mean, you had a nice career with the Flyers or anybody else. Who's the most like that you ever played with?
Geez, I'm thinking like a power forward could score.
Yep.
I mean, Scott Hartnell maybe. I'm trying to think who else up front. There would be.
He was a chirper out in the ice.
Hartsey?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hartsey.
yeah. And he
he
played
was a
hard. He'd
chirper,
fight
yeah.
when you had to. He'd make big hits, and you go to the net. And he was hard to play against. I'm trying to think who else that had that kind of
There's lots
that kind of
remember,
edge.
Go back to Kenny the Rat Linsman for heaven's
right.
sakes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of players that played like the Tkachuks.
Yeah.
And the thing is back in the day, you only played that way if you could back it up. Like you didn't
Right.
see many chirpers back in the day because back in those days, if you chirp, somebody's going to clean your clock.
Exactly. You have to answer the bell.
Now they're like the little yappy dog that nips your heels when you walk by their house.
Right.
You can't do anything with them. But anyhow, the Tkachuks are two very effective players.
Riley, you said a couple minutes ago that you fought George Laraque. For this tournament, Montreal, obviously the game's there in Boston, different people presenting the first puck, the man of the game, the honorary captains. George Laraque was an honorary captain. Canadians in Game 2 got a hell of an ovation.
Yeah.
people love this everywhere. People say fighting shouldn't be in the sport, whatever, but people love it everywhere, don't they?
They do, and Georgie's a special human. I think he made a big name for himself in Edmonton there, and he's from Montreal, so the natural cheer for a guy that's legitimately one of the toughest guys to ever play.
Like a refrigerator without a handle.
Yeah.
He's square.
I mean, he's square, yeah. So, there's a lot of love for Georgie. He's still very active in the community there in Montreal and abroad. He's got a ton of different business ventures going. He's just out there, and he puts himself out there, and I think he brings a level of positivity that people enjoy.
Brad, who's the toughest guy you ever played against? Played against a lot of them.
Well, I always go back to the guys like Terry O'Reilly, and we had a modern version of Terry O'Reilly and Rick Tocchet on our Flyers team, and the players such as that, like people forget because they talk about Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito, but Terry O'Reilly made himself a player, and he was the leading scorer for the Boston Bruins for 2 seasons, and so he was the type of player that if you checked him in front of the net, he'd beat the crap out of you, and then if you left him alone, he could score goals. And so to me, that is the tough player because you never know how to play him. He played a ton of ice time in the game. And, now the perceived tough guys on an NHL team, like, I don't know who they scare because they get 2 minutes of ice a game.
Right.
And so they're really not intimidating. To me, the intimidating players are the ones that played a lot, could fight, and score.
Chooks.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the game in a second because the game is fascinating. But one of the U.S. assistant coaches, John Tortorella, best buddies with Mike Sullivan, the Pittsburgh coach, who's the head coach of the U.S. squad. What do you think of Torts being here in this tournament? It's fantastic for him, fantastic for everybody. But as an assistant coach, what do you think he gets out of it, Brad?
Well, I think he offers a heck of a lot with the knowledge that he has of the game. And is he doing anything on the bench and changing? I don't know how their makeup is behind the bench, but in meetings and breaking down the play and in between periods, he's valuable when you can have an assistant coach of that stature back there. And plus, I don't know, I forget how old Torts is. And,
67.
There you go. And, I don't know how much longer he's going to coach. And so this could be, I know he won a Stanley Cup and he's been involved with Team USA before, but this could be one of the highlights of his career as well. And I did notice he had a suit on. Whereas if you notice him behind the Flyers bench, they just wear the
tracksuit.
Right, the tracksuit,
the dress tracksuit. It's a very nice tracksuit.
Yeah.
But he had a suit and tie on behind the USA bench.
All right, so tomorrow night in Boston, nobody's going to be booing the U.S. national anthem, not many. Tomorrow night, U.S. won the preliminary 3-1. Everything will be out there. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be unbelievable must-see TV for every hockey fan in the world and anybody who loves fast sports. Riley, who wins?
I got Canada 3-2.
With the winning goal scored by? Don't say Crosby.
I was going to say McDavid, but yeah.
He'll be here Saturday night.
That's right.
Afternoon.
That's right, 1 o'clock game, yep.
Yep.
What do you think, Brad?
Well, obviously Canada's going to win, and I'll go with Sidney Crosby to score the winning goal. But, when you look at who's going to win, I really think, and not to sound corny or I'm playing up to anything, I really think that the NHL has won.
Yes.
They came up with a formula. It's been well received, and what I would like to see or know, the ratings are through the roof for hockey. Mm-hmm. And so all these new fans that are watching it or the occasional fan that's watching it, how are we going to capture those people? How are we going to get them into the rink wherever they live? And, I assume viewership is up in Philadelphia, so it's the same
everywhere.
Thing. Mm-hmm. How are we going to get those new fans into the game to fall in love with the game of hockey? Because we all know hockey is a much different sport when you're sitting at the Wells Fargo Center or whatever arena than watching it on TV.
I'm going to pick the USA in this one. Obviously, I'm American, and we already beat you guys, but it should be a fantastic game. The difference between this and regular hockey, this is best on best, obviously. Guys, this is so fast. Guys are just, it's almost like at a different clip than a normal NHL game. Those are the best players in the world. These are the best of the best. Riley, is this the fastest hockey you've ever seen? They hadn't played in 10 years. It seems like I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think maybe 2010 are probably the closest. But yeah, I mean the pace, the execution. I mean, I almost laugh when I see the Canadian power play and just how crispy it is, and just the way they move the puck, and then you take like a guy like McDavid, even Crosby for being 37 years old, just like that next level, even within the best of the world. McDavid still being able to beat the best guys in the world. With
And then
clean
McKinnon,
speed.
McCarr.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a bad
McKinnon,
power play.
McCarr, yeah, just wild. So it's nice to watch. For
I
sure.
think the Canada-Sweden game was probably the fastest.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
it was the first game of the tournament, and everyone was going like, "Holy moly!"
Yeah.
Remember, I talked to my buddy. We played junior hockey together in 1974 with the London Knights, Dean Hopkins, and I talked to him after the game. We were both laughing like, do you realize we played in that league?
Right.
We were laughing. And then the 3-on-3 overtime was like, what is going on out there? And
I
it
want
was
to get to that for a
incredible.
second. When we got to take a break, but I got to ask you. Obviously, Sidney Crosby, who you're not a big fan of, I don't think Brad, but when he plays for
I
Canada,
love him.
yeah, you put the
I
Maple
love
Leaf
him.
on. But Mitch Marner of the Toronto Maple Leafs scoring the overtime goal in Montreal. For anybody who didn't realize, Montreal and Toronto hate each other. Austin Matthews is American. He gets booed out of his mind in Montreal everywhere. But Mitch Marner, the Canadian from Montreal, when you play with a Maple Leaf on, you're not a Maple Leaf, you're Canadian. Huh, Riles?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the first time he wasn't booed in that barn, I'm sure. It was a big goal for him and the team, obviously. I didn't think he wasn't overly flashy in the game itself, but, I guess big players find a way to score big goals, and he did that.
Toronto's waiting for him to score a big goal.
Yeah, right. He's still waiting. Yeah.
Craig Berube
Hopefully
hopes
Chief
he
can get
gets-
him going. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's tomorrow night, and we'll talk more about the USA and Canada. Every sports fan on the planet should be watching, whether you do or not. That's your choice, but you don't want to miss it. We're here with On the Ice. Independence Blue Cross sponsors us. We're Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill with Brad Marsh and our guest Riley Cote. Talk about the Flyers, their playoff chances, more about the tournament, and Riley's show Nasty Knuckles. Great podcast. Catch it. We'll talk about that after this. Stay with us.
Chickies and Pete's opens early at all locations for a parade watch party like no other. Chickies and Pete's, the official sports bar of the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. Watch live parade coverage on the big screen. Enjoy a special parade menu featuring the QB1 breakfast sandwich, A.J. Brown's Sweet Heat Wings, the Kelsey Combo, and B-Doc Impact Nachos. Plus special parade cocktails like Kelly Green Tea and the South Philly Sizzle. The parade watch party is on at the official sports bar of the Philadelphia Eagles. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
Every day, women like me go to the doctor for annual checkups for conditions like breast cancer. Early detection saved my life. But women with disabilities face a cruel reality: inaccessible medical facilities and equipment.
I went to a doctor's office I was told was accessible, but when I got there, I couldn't get through the front door.
Our veterans deserve better. Help PVA fight for access at pva.org.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
And we're back. It's time now for the Smart Stat of the Week, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY. Talk to Danny. One of the most anticipated games in recent memory takes place in Boston tomorrow night. USA face off with Canada. Game is basically a pick 'em in betting markets. Let's get it on. Should be an amazing game. That was your Flyers Smart Stat of the Week. Not really a stat, but a great hockey game. Once again, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for the smart choice in payroll services. Payroll Service Solutions, catering to the small and medium-sized business to handle all of your payroll needs. Call them once again at 1-866-PAY-EASY. Riley Cote, your payroll solutions are in part fueled by a podcast called Nasty Knuckles. You were a combative guy in the NHL. You've taken it over to your... It's interesting because you have an interesting post-hockey life. We'll talk about the other part in a second. Part peace, part war. What's it like to do the podcast? Who's some of your recent guests been? And whatever you want to pump up, go for it.
Yeah, thanks. No, honestly, we just have fun with it. Nasty Knuckles is 191 episodes deep now. We recorded today with Mike Richards.
You have a co-host?
Derek Settlemeyer, Nasty.
Yep.
And just trying to keep it light, we're not so much interested in, X's and O's and breaking down games besides just humanizing the player, having some fun, sharing some stories. So we had Richie on today just talking about the Four Nations and his experience in international play and, Olympics 2010 and just getting some insights from him. And it was great to reconnect with him and share a few stories.
You surprised he's not still playing? I mean, he'd be up there now. Jeff Carter just retired. Richie and him came in at the same time, but his career kind of got cut short, didn't it?
It did, and I'm comparing Richie to Karts. I think Karts was more built like a hockey player, long, lean, could skate, and I always thought that Karts would land up playing a lot longer just based on just the way he's built for hockey, and Richie had to work a little harder to move and get around out there. But then, as you mentioned, his career got cut a little short. I know he had a stint there with Washington, and it just kind of is what it is. But he's doing well. He's doing well in life now. And
I think he had some injuries that kind of piled up on him.
Exactly. Exactly.
When as you said, your body's not built for it, and you have a leg injury.
Oh,
it's twice as hard to come back.
Exactly.
To that because you have to work much
extra harder.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think it was just compounded with the injuries, and all of a sudden he wasn't the player that he once was.
Exactly.
Well, you were the first guest I've ever had that I called during 60 Minutes. A few weeks ago there was a story on 60 Minutes on PTSD in the military and some people who went to a retreat, you'll talk about it, in South America to use
ayahuasca.
It's ayahuasca, a drug to try to... I have no idea what I'm talking about, but it's a fantastic thing, and you're doing this now. Tell us about it if you can.
Yeah, so I don't love the word drug, but it's a plant medicine indigenous to South America, ayahuasca. So the group you're talking about is Heroic Hearts Project. So I've actually gone down to Peru with them 4 or 5 years ago, and did the exact same thing with some military veterans and some athletes. But the long and short of it is as we know, the military veterans, most of them have some sort of physical trauma, emotional trauma, and if it's not dealt with, it lands up, surfacing and generally in ways with over-aggression, violence, it's overreaction. So I think what happens is the simple way to really explain it is you kind of have a heart-to-heart with yourself and source, and kind of have this come to Jesus moment around. I need to fix the way I'm thinking, and it helps you process your trauma, and you kind of come out on the back end of it with a lot more space, open heart. These guys are, being vulnerable and sharing and crying and extremely healing, not just individually but collectively. So they're doing amazing work at Heroic Hearts Project, and it's nice to see that CBS 60 Minutes, did a full piece on what they're doing there. So important work.
They're not all military, obviously. Whatever you have. PTSD. Steve Downey, Dan Carcillo, 2 ex-Flyers who have been through this. We know about Aaron Rodgers in the NFL, but a couple ex-Flyers. A lot of hockey players, CTE, It's tough. When you retired, were you okay? Are you okay now?
I'm
Brad?
okay now. Oh, so you're talking to me, Brad? Or sorry.
Brad.
Oh, I thought you were still talking to Riley.
Either one's fine, but I mean, you seem fine, obviously. But you ever worried about something creeping in from all the hits?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's the obvious is, when are we all going to have knee replacements, or when we're going to have hip replacements? I think we all have former teammates that have gone through that with the hip and the knee replacements and so on, so so far my body's still moving, and so far so good.
You, Ross?
I'm good, yeah. I mean, the reason I got into these different spaces was because of the repeated head trauma, the concussions, the micro traumas, if you want to call them that. And that's how I kind of discovered this more on a medicinal level. It was because of that reason. So I'm grateful, for all the experience and how it's kind of led me down these different paths, but and be able to help people, right? I mean, it's not just about healing myself, right? Once you kind of figure this thing out, you try and help others, and I'm grateful for all of it. So it's powerful medicine. You mentioned a couple of those guys, and you're seeing a lot of athletes coming out of the woodworks now and using these different medicines because they're realizing that traditional, the pharmaceutical drugs that they're being prescribed don't work. In fact, they're probably enslaving them even more and pushing them down a darker hole a lot of the time. So it's nice to see this getting some traction. I think with this new administration, not to get into politics, but there's some openness to these medicines and legalizing on some level. So we'll see, but we know that they're powerful. We know that they work. It's not just for military veterans. It's not just for athletes. I think at the end of the day, everyone's got some level of trauma, physical, some level of emotional trauma. And I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to heal and be better versions of ourselves.
Well, it just came out today. Bobby Hall, the Golden Jet, had CTE, and
right.
So many people do. Steve Downey and Dan Carcillo, two people Flyer fans would identify with. These guys are both in really, really bad shape. Do you keep in contact with both now? And they seem like they're both doing great.
Yeah, well, both of them I've been involved with this journey. Downs was down with me in Jamaica a few years ago when we recorded that ESPN documentary, and Carcillo was a guy that I eventually brought to Colorado about 5-6 years ago, and witnessed, which I would describe as an exorcism of some sort. But nonetheless, he's been a lot better on the back end. He's less reactive to the world, and I think he's doing some good work now. But yeah, it's just what it does. It gets you out of the funk, gets you out of the rut, so you can kind of see the path a little more clearly.
All right, guys, something else went in our town. Brad and I talked about this last week about the Super Bowl, but the parade hadn't happened yet. We heard about the two Flyer parades back in the Broad Street Bully days. However many million people, this city turns up like no other for parades. You watched the Eagle Parade. What did you think of it?
No, I was in St. Louis, so I missed the whole.
That's right. How was your tournament?
It was an excellent tournament. We ended up 2-2, 2 wins, 2 losses, but it was a very good tournament. But we missed the parade.
You see it, Ral?
I did. I watched parts of it. It looked like insanity. The amount of people, just a sea of people. But I mean, to see, passionate Eagle fans, Philly fans, just
like?
Rejoicing.
I mean, I'm never going to figure out what it's like to be a pro athlete playing in front of 18,000 or a million at a parade. But a lot of the Eagles, Saquon, Jalen, almost everybody said to watch the smiles on people's faces when this happens, that's got to be pretty cool the whole way through, whether you're at a game, a parade, walking down the street. What's it like to have fans that basically worship you guys?
Well, I mean, from what I've witnessed, at that parade, and seeing video footage of the Broad Street Bullies parade, it's like when you have fans so passionate, and they're not just putting their heart into it; they're putting their hard-earned money into it, and they support the team, and they almost live and die by these teams. To see a team win a championship is like monumental to the fans. So to see them so happy and joyful and just excited is just a testament to their emotional involvement in these sports and their emotional connection to these teams. So it's amazing to see how much heart is poured into loving a team.
And Brad, the kind of segue I'm going to use now, you said many times the playoffs and how important they are to fans in the building. Flyers are kind of not favorites to claim a playoff spot. It's going to be a tough grind with 25 games left, starting with Edmonton Saturday afternoon. But watching that parade, being in St. Louis with your Warrior team, staying in the game like you are, how bad on just a human level do Flyer fans need to have some of that Stanley Cup, Four Nations excitement in their own building?
Well, 100%, and I think it's vital. We're in a rebuild, as everybody knows, and I think it's vital for us to get to the point where we're playing big, meaningful games, because that's part of rebuilding too.
Right.
This young group of players we have to get them in some meaningful games so they understand the difference in the game, and it's just not another game against whoever you want to say it's against, because then you just kind of. Yes, you still play, you give 100%, but when it's a big game, a meaningful game, you just give that little bit more.
Right.
And I wish Anaheim was coming in again, because our fans and the players were jacked for that game. And it wasn't even a contest. I love the fans being engaged, the players were engaged, and okay, Cutter or whatever the hell his name is, you don't want to play here, we're going to stick it to you. And I would say that even though there's been a lot of big games, that was the most meaningful game of a lot of our young players' NHL careers, because, man, if we would have lost that game and Cutter scored the winning goal,
I know, right?
They would have had a hide. They would have had a hide.
For people to realize, Flyers won 6-0.
Yeah.
And as you might have guessed, Cutter didn't score any goals or do
He's
anything in that game.
Non-existent,
He totally non-existent.
Tail between his legs, it looked like.
Yep. We're going to talk about the Flyers when we get back. The season 2-week break ends on Saturday afternoon. What do they have to do? Will they make any deals? Danny, Keith, it'll be a tough road, but will the Flyers be built up to it? We'll see. We come back with On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross at a Chickies and Pete's with lights and TVs and people and energy. Love it. Right after this.
Chickies and Pete's opens early at all locations for a parade watch party like no other. Chickies and Pete's, the official sports bar of the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. Watch live parade coverage on the big screen. Enjoy a special parade menu featuring the QB1 breakfast sandwich, A.J. Brown's Sweet Heat Wings, the Kelsey Combo, and B-Doc Impact Nachos. Plus special parade cocktails like Kelly Green Tea and the South Philly Sizzle. The parade watch party is on at the official sports bar of the Philadelphia Eagles. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
All righty, it's time now for the Independence Blue Cross Live Fearless Player of the Week. Only a couple guys in action this week in the Four Nations face-off this week. Sam Ersson, who didn't shut him out, beat the U.S. 2-1 for Sweden Monday night in the Four Nations face-off. Should help him when he comes back here. Haven't been through a game like that. Remember to choose Independence Blue Cross today and begin to live fearless with Brad Marsh and Riley Cote. Brad, when you played for Canada and then the emotion of those games died and you came back to the NHL and whatever else you were playing, is it a letdown in any way?
No, and the thing, you got to keep things in the proper context. I played for Team Canada when I was a junior twice, and then in the NHL one time. But back in the 70s, it wasn't the hype that it is now, and there was no TV coverage of it when I played. We went to Moscow for the World Championship. There was no TV coverage of that, and the World Juniors was not the big production that it is now. So, yes, very special to play for Team Canada, but we didn't face the pressure that each of these athletes that play for their countries now, the whole nation expects them to do well. Like even, Sweden and the Finns, they come over. Did they have a good tournament? I don't know, but they're being scrutinized big time in their home country, especially with the Olympics coming next year. So a lot of those players that perhaps didn't play up to par, they're going to drop down in the pecking order for the Olympic team, and a lot of pressure on the players now to perform at the elite level, if you will.
And of course, some guys, the Czechs, whatever, Slovenian, the Russians, obviously not playing with Matvey and everybody. Flyers come back Saturday, guys, 2 weeks off. It's a longer break than anybody's ever had in the middle of a season with the All-Star game. Obviously, it's going to be slow for everybody or whatever, for everybody getting back. No excuses. But, Riley, 25 games left for the Flyboys. Rasmus Ristolainen supposedly on the table for everybody to come get. Scotty Lawton, who we all love, might go if Flyers get a Godfather offer.
It's like 4 years in a row.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but this year's the year, I think.
Yeah.
It may be. Is he gone? I mean, I hate to say that, but everybody wants him, Brad.
Well, I think there's a lot of players on the trading block for the right deal. And Danny's going to make all kinds of deals that won't jeopardize the future of the team. He's not going to get a rented player. He's not going to get an older, aging veteran and so on. And so I think if they can move some parts regardless of their names, Danny's all ears.
Yeah, Farabee and Frost gone already, Riley. It seems to be a salary cap thing building up for the draft for the next couple of years. I'm not expecting any rentals, as Brad said. What are you expecting at the deadline in a league that, guys get traded all over the place, probably the most active of any sport?
Is Ristolainen off the injured reserve?
I don't think so yet.
I don't even really know what was wrong. Of course, they never disclose anything, but so
upper body, lower body.
So if he's injured and doesn't play prior to March 1, then you can take his name off the list.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You could, but you could trade for an injured player.
Yeah, but depends on how injured he is, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep. You expecting Danny to wheel and deal, Rouse?
I think he's got something up his sleeve for sure. Again, you mentioned a couple of the bigger names that are always thrown around out there. I could see lots being moved this year, but it's also if the price is right. It's not going to just be for no good reason just to move them. So, to Brad's point, I think everyone's for sale if the price is right. There's going to be a move or two, but it has to be beneficial for the long term. But also for the immediate. If you lose a guy like Scott Lawton, he's a glue guy in that locker room. He is very well respected. So, the return has to be absolutely. It has to make sense.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some teams interested in Sealer.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely,
exactly. Because there's a lot of teams that want a defenseman to play in the 4-5-6 role, and he's a great guy, shot blocker, et cetera, et cetera.
It's durable. Yeah, exactly.
One guy, actually, going back to the tournament for a second, that's not playing for the United States because he was hurt going in is Quinn Hughes. Bless you, Brad, whose brothers play for the Devils. And he may not be able to play tomorrow night. Charlie McAvoy's hurt. The rules about adding a player, blah, blah, blah.
They already added him. He didn't pass the physical.
That's right.
Talking about the guy from Vancouver?
Yeah. He's not going to Boston now.
Yeah. I get all the Hughes brothers mixed up. But
he won the Norris Trophy last year. How much is the U.S. going to miss a guy like that?
Oh, big time. But they've played pretty good without him. And so in saying that, I think they're really going to miss Charlie McAvoy.
Yep.
Man alive. Who did he hit in the Canada game?
It was McDavid, yeah.
Yeah, boom.
Oh, yeah.
Like when's the last time you saw him hit? It wasn't a true open ice hit, but hit like that in the open ice. It was closer to the board.
Yeah.
That was a heck of a check.
Oh, yeah. You don't see McDavid get hit like that either. I mean,
so, you back to the pace of the game. It was fast, it was this. But there was a lot of hard hitting in that game as well. And so that's what the diehard hockey fan misses. Okay, if you want to cut down on the fighting, okay, I'll maybe give you that. But we got to get back to the hitting in the game, the body check and the forecheck and taking the defenseman or eliminating your man type of thing. That was so obvious, and not just the U.S.-Canada game, in every one of the games.
I think it's important to remember, guys, after 3 fights in 9 seconds, there wasn't another fight the rest of the game. It was down to hockey.
But there's big hits in that game.
Great hockey, big hits.
They're punished.
You could have one player. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously McDavid is who he is. Everybody rates him the best player in the world. I'm not sure I wouldn't take Cale Makar right now. I mean, a defenseman that does what he does, you could take one guy, Riley. I mean, you got McKinnon. Crosby's obviously 37. McDavid, Makar, anybody else? You got one. Who did you take to start a team?
Jeez, yeah. I mean, that's.
There's a lot of players.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to go with one of those 3 guys. I mean, I mean, maybe building out from your back end out. I mean, maybe it's Makar, but if it was a forward, I would say McDavid, just because McKinnon's obviously extremely dynamic, but just like when you see McDavid wind it up, you just can't find that type of.
That's why that check
speed.
Was so impressive. I've never seen him body check that way. I forget who hit Gretzky one time on the blue line and knocked him down. Well, that guy was dead meat the rest of the game. The Semenkos of the world, he was just chomping. Put me in.
Right.
Hey, Glenn, put me in, put me in. But that's what is so impressive about that. Like Gretzky, as great as he was, he didn't have McDavid's speed.
Right.
Not even close.
Not even close, yeah.
And that was so I would take McDavid, Makar as a defenseman. I would have to take 2 players. But McKinnon is a close second.
Yeah.
Man, that guy's big. Holy
powerful,
moly.
Explosive, yeah.
But the list could go on. You must be cheering for Canada. You mentioned 3 Canadian players. What about the U.S. players?
There's some pretty good. I told you about the Chooks earlier. I mean, the U.S. doesn't have anybody like that, but Jack Hughes, pretty good players. Brothers, pretty good players. They're all pretty good players.
Yeah.
But they got the better goalie, guys. I mean, hockey comes down to goaltending. Connor Hellebuck, who won the Vezina last year, was terrible in the playoffs, by the way. Probably win the Vezina again this year. It's amazing to me that Canada, I mean, Craig Binnington's obviously a good goalie, won the Stanley Cup, but that's the best they got? Not really a golden age of Canadian goalies right now, is it?
No, I mentioned that to Neil Little, who scouts and knows the goaltenders. And I mentioned that to him, and I asked him the same question basically you did, and he said, it's a downtime right now, but there's a really good young crop of Canadian goalies coming. It kind of goes in cycles. Like even the Finn goalies, they didn't look very good, and the Finn goalies dominated the world for a lot of years. And but it kind of goes in cycles. But I tell you, from a pressure standpoint, as much pressure as I'm drawing a blank. The Winnipeg goalie, Hellebuck has for backstopping the USA. When the Winnipeg Jets dropped the puck for the first game of their playoffs this year, all the pressure in the world, probably more pressure because, he can, all of the Canadian press, everyone's going to be watching him and how he performs because, as you said, he wasn't very good in the playoffs last year. And there's a lot of pressure on him going forward.
In our little coincidence of the week, I mean, you guys obviously both know this, but the number 1 pick, both number 1 picks in the draft, both have obviously come through and are obvious Hall of Famers. Sidney Crosby and Nate McKinnon are both from Cole Harbour, Saskatchewan, which is supposed
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia, my mistake, sorry. A tiny little town. How small is it, Riley? And what are I mean, it's like 2 guys, 2 superstars, generational players being from Schmottveld, Vermont.
Well,
how big is Cole Harbour?
Well, it's not very big, but they would have played in the Halifax minor hockey system because it's it's its own town of Cole Harbour, and hopefully you don't have any listeners from Cole Harbour because they'll call in and complain. But it is basically part of Halifax.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But it is a community, and there's a community rink there, and they both played there, but they would have played the bulk of their minor hockey in Halifax, Dartmouth minor hockey system. But I'll tell you what, when they have a reunion in Cole Harbour, they can call 2 of the best players ever.
Yeah, right.
They are 2 of the best players ever. And again, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock from TD Garden in Boston. It'll be phenomenal. And then Saturday, Connor McDavid will be here. Flyers, a 25-game stretch under John Tortorella trying to make it. We'll talk more about the Flyers, more about Riley Cote, Brad Marsh. We're here at Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill. We'll be back for our final segment right after this. Stay with us, folks.
Chickies and Pete's opens early at all locations for a parade watch party like no other. Chickies and Pete's, the official sports bar of the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. Watch live parade coverage on the big screen. Enjoy a special parade menu featuring the QB1 breakfast sandwich, A.J. Brown's sweet heat wings, the Kelsey combo, and B-Doc Impact nachos. Plus special parade cocktails like Kelly Green Tea and the South Philly Sizzle. The parade watch party is on at the official sports bar of the Philadelphia Eagles. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3, serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1957. You can now listen to all your WBCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
And we are back here at Chickies and Pete's. People all over the world listen to us. Philip Brooks in St. Joseph, Missouri. Hello, thanks for listening. Along the radio network, Brad talking about Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. You're from London, Ontario, right?
That's right.
Rouse, where are you from?
Winnipeg, Manitoba.
From Winnipeg. So a Hellebuck fan, huh?
I am, man. Winnipeg Jets fan.
Winnipeg. What's it like? Winnipeg, people talk about here, like Montana, which is basically 100 million square miles of nothing. Winnipeg's north of that. Winnipeg, from what I understand, and I might be an ignoramus, I am an ignoramus, but not a lot of suburbs in Canada. Basically a city and then 2 zillion miles of nothing. Am I overdoing it?
No, I think that's pretty accurate. You got Winnipeg, and you got a lot of farmland and small towns, a lot of prairie. Yeah, I got some lakes there in mid Manitoba there, but yeah, it's pretty flat. It's windy. Wintertime, it's freezing cold. And
like a day like today, 25 degrees. You're in Philadelphia now. People freaking out here. In Winnipeg, that's got to be swimming weather, right?
Pretty close. Short sleeves, maybe. I don't know. No, it's I mean, it can get pretty brisky in Winnipeg with the wind and the wind chill and just being flat and cold. I mean, it gets that, dash 45. So when you have days like today, yeah, I was chilly, but it was pretty much
Portage in Maine. Coldest corner in Canada.
That's right.
You always talk about the frozen ponds. Your dad's pouring water on the ponds or finding one, and people here don't get that because we don't have a lot of frozen ponds in Philly. But did you grow up with those, Ronald?
I did just locally. My dad actually made a little rink in our garden in the backyard. But yeah, just around my neighborhood, there was little ponds. There was a local rink that had about 4 outdoor sheets of ice. So yeah, with the weather, obviously, it was frozen all winter long. And It wasn't a shortage.
Into early June.
Early June?
Yeah, right. The last snowstorm, early June, yeah.
But people talk about hockey being an expensive sport. I mean, when you're a kid, you get a frozen day, you throw a puck out, get a stick, and off you are for hours and hours, Brad, right?
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, it is an expensive sport, but I think all sports are expensive. Granted, hockey, you need more equipment than the other sports, but you know, if your son or daughter plays soccer, you're paying a small fortune for the soccer cleats. Yes, you don't need shoulder pads and all that stuff, but I don't know where it's going to end. Like in hockey now, like you got to spend $200-$400 if you're lucky on a hockey stick.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
right.
And there typically can be more than that as
your
you
son's
get
a
older.
goalie or daughter.
Yeah.
Goalie pads.
Well,
I mean,
my daughter was a goalie. Yep, and but hockey is an expensive sport because we have more equipment than the other sports. But there's all kinds of charitable groups. There's all kinds of the associations. I know every minor hockey association has money in their budget to help out families that can't afford to play, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, the Flyers have a great program where the kids all get free equipment from head to toe.
hockey.
No, it's learn to play.
I'll learn to play.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, and Riley goes out pretty much every Saturday, well, sometimes on Sundays with the kids, and it's a program that the league instituted, so it's done league-wide. All 32 teams do it. It's called Learn to Play for ages 5 to 9. The kids get free equipment, skates, shin pads, everything, and then they get the ice time on top of that, and there's an alumni out on the ice with them each ice session.
All right, Riley, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, when you go out on Saturdays with these 5 to 9-year-olds and you see little Bobby Tkachuk, 5-year-old, around the ice acting like a maniac, which is good, and he says, you fought in the NHL. What do you, I'm not a 5-year-old, but would you help with that side of the game if somebody asked you about it?
At that age, no. I mean, that
Way
age,
too early, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to keep the game as fun as possible. I mean, I think that's the key is loving the game and just, you know, my recommendation now would be like, you know, score 50 goals because it pays a lot more. I mean, it's like, you know,
how'd you learn to fight though? Were you just a tough kid, or I mean, it got you into a professional sport? You obviously had to be able to skate and play. What was it like growing up? Did you realize your entree into the game would be through the physical side, the skating? What was it like for Riley Cote?
Well, I think I was always a physical guy. I was extremely competitive. I didn't fight for a living, you know, until I was 20 years old. My 4 years in junior hockey, I had only maybe 20 fights. You know, I was still thinking I was a player, I guess, and I didn't get drafted. So I had to start, you know, really kind of looking myself in the mirror and owning my situation and being honest with myself. Where do I actually stand in the mix here? And I was looking at the guys getting called up, lots of goals, lots of penalty minutes. So I just made the decision I was going to, you know, fight everyone and their brother, biggest guy with most penalty minutes. I knew I could at least hold my own, and I had to learn, you know, the craft because I wasn't very seasoned at it. But really, it was just all heart.
You took a few while you were learning.
Oh yeah.
Brad, you
all
fought
the way.
too.
Yeah.
You were. I watched a lot of Brad Marsh fights in the NHL. You could handle yourself.
Well, I fought in junior, and then I fought when I first came into the NHL because it was kind of the rookie thing to do.
Yeah.
But then as I got older, I didn't fight much because I came to the realization that I'd rather be playing than sitting in the penalty box for 5 or 7 minutes, depending if you got the extra 2 or whatever. And especially, you know, that kind of changed in the Keenan years, if you will, because he played 4D. And so I didn't want to give the opportunity to someone else to take my spot in that 4-man rotation.
It's a lot of ice.
By sitting. And then plus at that time we had Brownie, Daryl Stanley, and Glenn Cochran.
Right. You didn't need to do
Let them do the fighting.
Exactly.
Rod, do you ever have a guy, because guys are mic'd up, and I've seen hockey games where one guy says to another, let's go, like an honor among thieves. Heavyweights don't fight lightweights. You ever say to someone, let's go? I mean, whether it's to jack up your team or anger or whatever, there really is an honor among thieves, isn't there?
Well, there is, for sure, yeah. I mean, there's a code, but there's also times where, you know, if you want to call him a lightweight or a middleweight, you know, a chirpy guy crosses the line where you still have to go do your job, right? I mean, and you're trying to play within the rules and not take an extra penalty, so you would still, you know, initiate and engage with someone that probably won't fight you to at least try.
Would you fight Gretzky, for example?
Well, no,
You
because
can
Gretzky
kill.
wouldn't be Gretzky wouldn't be crossing the line like that, right? I mean, Gretzky was a very honest player, and he wouldn't be that guy. But there's some players that just they like to flex a little bit and chirp. A guy like Sean Avery comes to mind, Patrick Coletta. A couple of these more grinder, chippy players. You try and you go after them and send the message, but then a guy like Colton Orr or Donald Brashear or whoever steps in, and you land up fighting that guy, But there's certainly a code. You generally know who you're going to fight, in some regard. But going after a skill guy wouldn't be the play. It wouldn't make much sense.
Either of you guys ever knock a guy out cold in an NHL fight?
I have, yeah.
Who'd you knock out?
Patrick Waugh.
Andre Waugh.
He was a goalie.
Yeah.
You went after the goalie?
Yeah, I know, right? Some street cred.
Andre Waugh.
Andre Waugh.
This is a serious question. You're going to think it's a joke, but, I mean, I've never knocked anybody out in a fight. I've been in fights, obviously, but if you knock a guy, I mean, you kill someone in a fight. He hit his head on the ice. Did you ever worry about that? I mean, you obviously don't want to hurt anybody real bad, but you're swinging, and it could happen, and I've seen it happen where a guy knocks somebody out, and the guy who did it's like scared to death. What's that like?
I mean, I was not one bit worried about that, just like I wasn't one bit worried about getting knocked out. I was trying not to think about these things. I was just trying to do my job. I think once you start getting in your head with this stuff is really when it gets, it gets ugly. Worrying about this and worrying about that, I think it gets in the way of what you need to do. So, no, at the time I was living a different life. I was, fully engaged in what I was doing, and I never really thought about, the potential negative outcomes of either side of the fight.
All right, both of you guys coached a little bit. Brad, I'll ask you this question. Flyers have a young team, obviously. Some defensemen who are young, York and others, Andre. Who's a defenseman, a guy that played your position, that you think in the last part of this season and in the next year in the future can really step up and become a top four kind of guy?
Well, we had that same conversation about Sanheim like 2 years ago, and he stepped up and become that guy. And I think the same can be said for Ritzelane, and he had an off year last year, and whatever, I don't know, woke him up. He's been a stud this year, and I think a lot of people are now. He's drawn a blank. The young Swede that came up from Lehigh,
Andre,
yep.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, what's his upside going to be? Like, how much more can he improve?" I think with Nick Seeler, he gives 110% every game, so I don't know what upside is there with, because you get what you see in Nick,
yep.
and it's effort every game. So
yep.
I think it falls on to Drysdale and Cam York. Like, what is the next step for them? Not just to be a 15-minute defenseman. Can you kill penalties and be dominant killing penalties? Can you play a power play and be dominant killing? So those are the two young kids there that I'm looking to make a next step.
All right, last question. We only got about a minute, guys. Travis Konechny, Travis Sanheim. We talked about the Travis Sanheim, but Konechny's first big international tournament. Obviously, you hadn't been best on best in 10 years. Brad, how much is this going to help Konechny when he comes back on every level?
Well, I think it's going to help everybody, even Urson, who played in the one game with Sweden. I think it's just going to be a tremendous learning experience. And then when he's sitting in the dressing room talking to the young players, and when they do get to the playoffs, he can, they'll be going to him for a lot of advice, if you will. So, hey, it's a wonderful experience. Now, is he playing tomorrow? Did he?
I think he's going to be in. Yeah.
Yeah, because the last article I read.
Him.
Yeah, he was going to find out today, but I was trying to find something out on the Twitter feed, but I couldn't see anything. I would assume he's playing. Yeah.
It's tremendous. It'd be awesome. And we love talking about this tournament. We love having you on, Riles. Always a treat. You're doing so many good things on the ice, off the ice, following the Flyers with kids. Thanks for being with us, and continue good luck in everything.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me.
Marcy, we're rooting for different teams tomorrow night, but enjoy the game. Should be fantastic atmosphere and great for the game of hockey. Let's talk Flyers and keep it rocking.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. We appreciate everybody for coming out tonight. Chris Sermer produced this fine program. Stephen Lawler turned the knobs, spun the dials. Back at the station. We're back next week at Malvern with a guest to be named later. for Brad Marsh and Riley Cote, this is Independence Blue Cross on the ice from Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill. Have a great week, everybody. Go USA and go Flyers.
You're listening to 1490 WBCB and on your FM dial at 107.3 W297CL.